I think it went really well.
Good.
And she
300 flags. Yeah, she came in joining by and said she got it. For what? It doesn't know everything. 1 minute. Not yet. Thank you. Morning.
She told me I had to be quiet for the trouble.
This is Beach Talk Radio.
And all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking. BG. The following will be a testing ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Ladies and gentlemen, broadcasting live 100 feet from the Gulf of America. Here are your award-winning social media superstars, the hosts of Beach Talk Radio, Kim and Ed Ryan.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Welcome to Wahoo Willie's. And this could be the biggest crowd we've ever had, Vice Mayor. So thank you all for coming to Fort Myers Beach, and thank you all for coming to Wahoo Willie's to spend your hard-earned money. Just leave big pounds of 50s on the bar when you leave, and everybody will be happy. Before we get to the Vice Mayor, we have our friends from the Women's Club here to once again tell everybody about the St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 15th. Barb and Deb.
Morning, everybody. Morning.
Go ahead. Let it rip, Barb.
Well, first of all, we just want to thank Ed for letting us come on the program, and so we could tell you all about that. We are resurrecting the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We got this bright idea right after January 1st, New Year's Eve, and said, is anybody going to do St. Patrick's Day? We didn't hear anything. So middle of January, we raised our hands and said, let's do it. And of course, we need the help of all of you to make this a very successful event. We have to thank Ed. We have to thank Tektronics, Skies Cafe, the community, the Alex King and the Alex King Foundation, Albert from AD Architects, Coconut Jacks.
Albert from where?
AD Architect.
Okay. Yes, Albert. Right, yeah, Albert D'Ambrose, right?
D'Ambrose, yes. Are you correcting me?
No, I would never do that. By the way, I have a funny story to tell about my dog. It's not so funny, but the dog is still alive. I just want to let everyone know the dog is still alive, but it wasn't a good night last night. Yeah. And Kim's not in town. No, she's not in town. So, but dear, if you're watching, the dog is still alive. Go ahead.
What did the dog do?
I'll tell the story later. I don't want to scare anybody.
Keeping us in suspense.
Yeah. I don't think she should ever leave me alone with just the two dogs at home. It doesn't work out right.
She learned her lesson, right? Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. So two more thank yous. One for Coconut Jacks Waterfront Grill out of Bonita Springs, and also Sweet Melissa's Bonita Springs. The parade is on Saturday, March 15th. It starts at Santini Plaza. We're going to have a staging area at 8 a.m. in the morning, along with the alumni Illumination Express, the coffee bar and rolls and things like that. We also are going to have porta potties, and the most important thing, we're going to have hand washing stations with the porta potties. We will be handing out the registrations. Our friend Donia here from the Women's Club, she's going to be handing out registrations if anybody wants to sign up. We are going to start at Santini Plaza promptly at 10 o'clock. We are going to go all the way to the Women's Club, the vacant lot Women's Club, 175 Sterling, where we are going to have a post party for everybody. And we will have green beer. We've got 3 food trucks. We've got a great party plan there. So we're hoping that if you can't make the parade, at least you can make the after party. Deb, I'm giving it to you.
So for the food trucks, like Barb said, we have the Luminary Espresso that will have coffees, espressos, muffins, and fruit and stuff to kind of get your motor going. We're working on that alcohol permit, which we should have in a couple weeks, and then we'll have, bring it back, Skies will be there to sell us margaritas, Bloody Marys, mimosas, and then that can get your creative juices flowing. Then we'll work our way on down to the Women's Club property. The 3 food trucks we'll have there are a pizza truck, so it'll be wood-fired pizzas. They will have one that's St. Patty's Day themed, along with, and Ed loves this one, the one called Between the Buns. And they will have hamburgers.
Like
and
I said
hot
on the
dogs.
show yesterday, if I had a food truck, I wouldn't call it Between the Buns because, idiot guys like me, that's not the first thing they don't think about is food.
But it got your
It
attention.
certainly did, right?
It did.
Yeah.
And they are also taking their menu and theming it for Irish as well as their regular menu. And then we will have Mother Teresa Italian food as well. Skies will have another bar set up there, again, with all the drinks that you want, even mixed drinks. We are having a VIP area. It's $50, but what that does is get you your own private area that has your own tables. You have chips for free drinks, food vouchers, a lot of different goodies, an area to keep you cool, your bartenders or your private bartenders. We'll have a band there, dancing available in the cement area. It'll just be fun. Again, even more porta potties and hand washing stations.
Oh, yes. And soft toilet paper.
Hey, ooh.
Yes. So March 15th,
Yes.
it starts at 10 o'clock at Santini Plaza.
The floats will line up at 8.
Yes.
And then it's wheels turning at 10 a.m.
And the Sheriff's Department's robot will be there at least, right?
Robbie the
Yes.
robot.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the pictures of the robot in the Edison of Lights Festival. And we're waiting on the sheriff if he might come down, which would be great to see him.
We're
Yes.
waiting on that. We're working on the final permit for the fire department and the sheriff's department. They have the forms for the registration to be in the parade. We also have people from Fairview Isles. We have a motorcycle that is amazing pictures, a patriotic one. We've got the Fort Myers Beach Community Foundation, the Women's Club. We've got the band,
We
Dunbar
have
Band.
Dunbar Marching Band and Gateway Marching Band.
Yeah. All right. And if you want to be in the parade, there's still opportunities. You
Yes.
can go on the Women's Club website.
Yes.
You can fill out an application.
Donya's
or
going to
here,
come
Donya's.
around with some of these forms.
Great.
And if you want to fill those out, you can hand them back to us today, or my email address is on there. You can email them,
All right.
drop them off at Anita's store, the Islander, or submit them back into the Women's Club and they'll get them to me.
All right.
But the good thing about this is if you're in a float that's 12 foot and over and you win best decorated, best way to get the audience engaged, you win $1,000.
Yes.
If it's 12 foot and under, like golf carts, it's motorized, you win that one, it's $1,000.
And Kim is one of the judges. She'll be one of the judges, and we will take coffee money as bribes. So feel free to donate to the coffee fund. All right.
And if you're in the parade and something non-motorized, if you're a pedal bicycle or a walker and you're the best decorated, it's $1,000.
Francesco,
So there's
the parade is March 15th, which is Saturday before St. Patrick's Day at 10 o'clock, starts at Santini Plaza. Just questions from the
Perfect.
Facebook audience.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, ladies?
You
We
know
have
what?
a grand marshal. Our grand marshal is Mayor Dan Ehlers.
Third choice. He was the third choice.
And then we wanted to thank Alex King Foundation. He will be our number 2 in the parade. And he was our big sponsor that allowed this parade to come back to the island.
Yes. Yes.
So he will be in a golf cart with my husband, who's over there.
All right.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you guys.
us.
Big hand
Thank
for
you
the
for
folks
having
from the
us.
Women's
Let
Club,
us know
March
if you have
15th.
questions.
And by the way, you can join the Women's Club. There are dudes in the Women's Club. I'm in the Women's Club. It's a great organization. We're trying to help them rebuild their building over on Lazy Way and Sterling. So you can go on the website and you can become a member. It's $75 a year to be a member of, and it starts in March. So now's a perfect time to join. All right, we're going to, before we invite the vice mayor up, some of you know there was an accident. It looks like the accident over at Lover's Key was with a motorcycle. So the traffic is backed up pretty bad. And the chief, Chief Worth said that it looks like they flew the patient out as a priority trauma patient. So just if you're out there going that way on the south, there is an accident at Lover's Key. And the traffic is backed up out at Lover's Key. All right, everybody, our guest of honor today, I don't see him anywhere, but I'm sure he's here. The Vice Mayor of Fort Myers Beach, your big hand. Oh, he's going to make a grand entrance from the back door. Look at that. Jim Atterholt. Welcome, Jim. Thank you for coming on. Happy birthday to my wife's sister, Heather. It's her birthday today.
Where's that sitting?
I'm Ed. I'm sitting here.
No scoot over today?
Oh, no, just me and you, bro.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. He's here as a backup in case they need to use the bathroom. All right. Everybody's phone is going off for some reason.
Must be an alert.
Amber alert. All right, Jim. Let's start out with, I heard you were running today. Are you training for some kind of race?
No,
Are you out there running?
It's residual training from your run, which I got smoked in. My age group, I thought I aged into the 60 to 65 group, and I thought, boy, that'll be good. I'll be in the younger wing of that. Wow. My phone's going.
Everybody's phone is going off. It's an Amber alert.
Yep.
Yeah.
But in your race, when I got into that 60 to 65 group, I'm realizing most of those folks are retired, so they spend a lot of time training.
Running, yeah.
And they're serious people, so I couldn't even compete with those guys. So I got some work to do. So
yeah,
I did run this morning, and I would say a couple things. The beach at least from Leonardo Arms to the very south end was spectacular. There is no red tide smell. There's no dead fish, and the breeze coming off the shore was excellent. So I'm hopeful that I see reports that the red tide is fading, which is very encouraging because, my goodness, we've been through enough. But so that was encouraging. And I also saw, Brenda helped me with this, it's the Beachkeeper Club.
Yes, today.
They are all over the place.
300 people signed up.
300. So kudos to Tuna Skin and all the volunteers today. They are picking up not only on the beach, they're up and down Estero Boulevard. It is so awesome. I know you've organized some in the past. Keep Lee County Beautiful's done that. It's so great for Fort Myers Beach and the people that take the time, not only who live on the island, but come from all over Lee County to volunteer. So just a thank you and a shout out to them and Tuna Skin, who does a great job with that.
Now, did you strategically place Brenda right in front of me
No.
so she can shoot me lasers and make sure that this is a totally friendly show?
I love that concept, but some of the nicest people I know are sitting at that table.
Yes.
So I thought she'd be safe and good
I'm
hands.
going to have to keep my hat down because the last thing I want to do is make your wife angry.
Well,
so it's going to be totally soft
just
show
to give you
today.
some peace of mind. She is wearing your same
I
hat,
know.
so we're good. It's all good.
So obviously we want to get an update right out of the gate on Santini Plaza. You texted me during the week that you were going to have an update that perhaps people might not have heard about. So the south end of Fort Myers Beach was hopping yesterday, which is great, even though there's nothing really to do other than, go. How many times can you visit Anita's shop and how much money, can you spend at Anita's shop? The more the merrier, but
I'm sure she would say not enough.
I know.
Yeah.
But you need a place to eat on the south end and and get a haircut, of course. We all need haircuts.
We're going to get to that, and we're going to
ahead.
get to your hazing of me about the haircut, which obviously there's a larger point I'm trying to illustrate with the haircut issue. But let's start with Santini Plaza. So lots happening in Santini Plaza, even though it may not appear, it appears as if it's sort of plateaued, but there's a lot of good things happening and a lot of good things coming. And I think after you hear all this, you'll be encouraged. We all wish would happen tomorrow. And thank heavens for those early entrants who've come out like Anita and Liani's and the Book Nook and the others who have come out and opened early because they've took a risk. So let's support them as they go through this tough time until everything gets back to normal again. But let's start at the north end of Santini Plaza. Everybody knows that the Santini Plaza is like a sort of like an L shape. We're just going to work our way around Santini Plaza. And I interviewed the owner of Santini Plaza for an hour this week. And then I went over there myself and spent about a couple hours with Sharon, who's the manager. Sharon has an office there now and full time. And she walked me around. Then I went back around and talked to all the owners that were there. And so I got a lot of good information for you. There's a lot of rumors floating around, and understandably so. But I think this is the best information that I think is at least currently up to date. So the first store and shop is Surf Style, which everybody's seen. They've got good signage. It's a huge kind of a beach boutique store, and they're open. And they've been open for a couple months, and they're open from 8 to 8, 7 days a week. And then next to Surf Style, again, everybody knows it's got a lot of attention, that Island Liquors, which is a traditional liquor store, is open as well. They're next to Surf Style. They're open from 9 to 8, 7 days a week. So the next one, which is a bit more mysterious because there hasn't been a lot of activity, but activity's coming. The next 2 months for Gavin's Ace Hardware is going to be critical. They hope to be open within a couple months. It's twice the size as the original hardware store that was in Santini Plaza, and they're going to have everything there. And obviously, with all the rebuilding going on in Fort Myers Beach, tremendous convenience to have something on the south end where you can get your hardware store needs met. So then, as you kind of make the L, and you kind of turn south on Santini Plaza, you've got the Santini Marina Plaza storage facility. Now, that's not terribly sexy, but there are a lot of people that need additional storage, especially in the condos on the south end. And they are back open. It has been completely remodeled. It looks spectacular. They got 250 units, only 37% full. So there's lots of units available. They were basically full before Hurricane Ian. I toured it after Hurricane Ian, and boy, they had a lot of challenges there, but they've completely renovated it. They've got units on both the first and second floor that are climate control. And if you get your own code, you will get your own code. And the building's open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The most popular size is 5 by 10, and that runs about $116 per month. They also have cubicles for $59 a month, and they've got some other miscellaneous size facilities as well there. So as you continue on continue south, the UPS store is coming. The UPS store, it will be for those of you who are Amazon shoppers and love to have a place to return your Amazon goods. Obviously, that UPS store will be very helpful, and for those who want to mail stuff. So that's coming. I know they're working. They've definitely signed their lease. I don't see a lot of activity there, but I know definitively that they are in. So next to the UPS store is going to be a place called Hue Salon and Day Spa. And that is where, Ed, you will get the proverbial haircut. And obviously for ladies, they've got all the ladies' hair and stuff that they do. They also have nails. And they're going to be doing some spa stuff as well. So now Ed likes to tease me a lot because I talk a lot about haircuts. It's not about my own personal needs, but it illustrates the need on this island to get our basic services back on the island. It's very challenging when everyone on Fort Myers Beach is driving off the island to get their haircut. It contributes to traffic. It's obviously terribly inconvenient. That's why after the storm, I spent a lot of time helping the 7-Eleven so we could get gas on the island, get the CVS going, which has pharmacy, so we could let people get their basic services. Publix, obviously, the post office. Get your basic services on Fort Myers Beach without having to get in your car, create more traffic, have the inconvenience of it all. So we were very encouraged by this new hair salon that's coming in. There used to be 5 or 3 hair salons on the south end.
Take a breath.
Yep.
So last weekend, I asked who was on last weekend? Who was on last weekend? John. I asked John if he had heard that the post office was moving off the island because I heard it from somebody who I thought who is a credible person on Fort Myers Beach, that the post office was moving off the island. And then before I know, NBC's like doing a story about rumors spreading on social media.
Yep.
And then I called the guy the next day because I asked you and I asked Dan and I asked John and everybody said they hadn't heard anything. So I was like, okay, well, I heard it. I asked and everybody said no. And have you heard anything more? Because I called the guy back and he said it's true. It's going to happen. So I don't know.
So I've been in government in various levels throughout most of my professional career, and those kind of rumors do float around. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good. After Hurricane Ian, I spent a lot of time working with Senator Scott. Remember, after the hurricane, the post office in their always questionable customer service, told everybody to go out to the airport to get their mail. And what a horrible thing to tell an island that lost every vehicle to go out to drive out to the airport. Again, it was always a flip of the coin if you could even find your mail out the airport. So with Senator Scott's help, we were able to get some temporary trailers in, and people would literally walk to the post office or drive.
Okay, so can you get to the point?
No,
have you heard it or not? I mean, you're going back to ancient history now.
No, but it's a backstory.
Have you heard it or not?
So while this is going on, they build this new post office. They rebuilt the existing building. They refurbished it. They have a long.
It looks great.
It looks great. They did a great all federal guidelines.
Yeah.
The post office was heavily involved in the rebuild, but they have a long-term lease on that location.
So they're not moving.
It doesn't mean they're not moving. I watched the Postmaster General the other day on C-SPAN. He testified before both the House and the Senate. He's under a lot of fire because postal rates continue to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Efficiencies, he likes to make some efficiencies, but members of Congress don't like efficiencies because they don't want their post office closed. They don't like to see the post office. They don't want to. A lot of the post office would love to go from 6 days to 5 or 4 days of delivering mail to save money. There's a lot of things that are preventing them. So anyways, in that congressional testimony, the Postmaster General said that he has no plans to close post offices, no plans to close. That could mean anything, but he's trying to find more efficiency. So it's a tough call, but so no is the answer to your question. I've heard nothing definitive about that post office, but the post office is infamous for not being a good communicator.
Right.
So we don't know.
I'm not going to say who told me, but the person that went into the post office heard it from a mail deliverer.
But there are rumors within the agency about closures. There's rumors, all kinds of, and that was happening even before the election.
Listen, if Adam Botano was in charge of that, it'd be closed tomorrow. So.
Well, I don't know about that, but I would say this: and this is so true of all of the facilities on Fort Myers Beach. You know, the post office is watching. The federal post office is watching the activity at our local postal branch. The same thing could be true of Publix. The same thing is true of CVS and 7-Eleven, and they're watching their metrics. So, for those of you who can afford to buy on Fort Myers Beach, this goes true of our restaurants and our shops. It's so important that you support our local businesses because particularly the national change, they are business people and they're watching those numbers very closely. So if you're going to Bonita to do all your postal work versus Fort Myers Beach, you know, and I know during season it's hard because traffic's terrible, but you can go in the mornings and so forth. But you got to support our local facilities because they're watching, and it's even true of Publix and CVS and 7-Eleven. And obviously, our local people desperately need it as well. So, if you could stay on island, I know I'm going to say that because at CVS, there's a lot of people that haven't changed their scripts over to Fort Myers Beach because they're just, they're used to dealing with Life Postee, and transfer those scripts back to Fort Myers Beach. Support your local pharmacy. Support your.
Before you get back to your list, I want to go through the list. Are you for or against the Gulf of America?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the president has made that declaration. The governor has authorized it for Florida. It's authorized federally. It's in essence. I wouldn't say it's the law.
Are you personally for or against the Gulf of America?
It's a nice thing. I mean, I like to call it the ocean personally, as you know, and you've teased me about that over the years as well. When I look at the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, I see the
Gulf
ocean.
of Mexico.
Well, that's what it was before. Now it's the Gulf of America, and that's fine. So I've got no beef with it. But I would say that.
Would you like us to own Greenland or Canada?
Well,
or Greenland,
Greenland is interesting because Greenland has about 57,000 people in it. And if we were to.
Did anybody else know that Greenland had 57,000 people?
No, but I say that because if we were to make them an offer, like let's say $1 billion or $2 billion, you spread that amongst 57,000 people.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And we'll give them all free Gulf of America shirts.
And the strategic value of Greenland is pretty impressive. So I mean, it's certainly worth having that conversation. I would prefer it be done in a much very friendly way.
You swim too. You're like a triathlete. You're like a superstar.
Boy, you're giving me far too much credit.
When you swim in the ocean. Yes. Do you call it the Gulf of America? I'm swimming in the Gulf of
ocean. I'm swimming in the ocean. And I get a lot of grief for that, but that's okay.
All right, continue.
All right. So we talked about the Hughes Salon and Day Spa, and we're continuing down. Now the big breaking news, there's actually 2 or 3 breaking news stories. Sweet Licks Ice Cream, which is next to the UPS and Hughes Salon Day Spa store, they're hopefully opening within 2 weeks. The date I was given by Sharon is April 21st. Now, don't hold them to that because in the bizarro world of Postee, and it's always challenging to get contractors to do what you need them to do. Now, actually, that restaurant owns the family that's doing this particular restaurant, Sweet Licks, Also, the family owns New York Pizza and Pasta, and they also own another restaurant that's coming that I'll share with you in a second. Great family, great Italian family, and they're all in, and the family will be running this little. It's called Sweet Licks Ice Cream Shop. They also serve espresso, cappuccino, and desserts, and they're shooting to open again Friday, February 21st. Again, don't hold them to that. I was in the shop this past week. It's beautiful. They're making tremendous progress. The big rumor is that they may even serve sandwiches, which means they would be the first entity to serve substantive food. And we're hopeful that that rumor is true. So next to Sweet Licks is Liani's Casual Swimwear, which is open. And when I stopped in there, I met with Carrie Smith, who's the owner.
She does a lot of videos on Facebook.
She's got a lot of energy. She has so much energy.
Yes.
She gave me a nice tour, and she told me that the genesis for the name Liani's was from the original owner, who had two daughters, Leah and Anna, and they combined those names, Liana. So that's where Liani's got its name.
I was really expecting this part of the show to go a little bit faster than it is.
That's good history.
The show is halfway over, and
people are Santini Plaza junkies. They want to know this stuff. I would say one of the things that surprised me at Liani's, so she was very gracious, but they have a wonderful men's section in their apparel. And they so a lot of the fellas just walk right by there. They don't realize that there's a men's section in there. So I encourage them to stop by. They're open from 10 to 5 Monday through Saturday.
These are unpaid ads, by the way, that you're reading.
Well, they could soon be advertisers. If you behave yourself, they could soon be advertisers.
People know what's open. They want to know what's coming.
You got this is I'm building the anticipation.
You're not going to read that full page ad for Anita's store.
No, I'm
sorry.
not.
I love Anita, but
the Book
come on.
Nook is next. The Book Nook is open from 9 to 4. Obviously, your listeners played a big role in helping them open. They're open on Saturdays from 9 to 2, and they're closed on Sunday. And then, of course, the Islander is open. And I would just say, just as an aside, they had a wonderful fashion competition yesterday. Both Liani's and the Islander.
It wasn't a competition, Jim. It was a fashion show to benefit the Community Foundation. It wasn't a competition. Why does everything have to be a competition with you?
Fair point, Ed. Fair point. And I'm just trying to get all this in.
I know you are.
That was for the Community Foundation. They had a great turnout, and some of the male models did a great job. I thought Alex King was rocking a very cool hat. Sandy Sadness had a very wild hat, looked like a sombrero, but very cool. Because I watched it on video, I was not at this fashion event, but I did see it. It was very cool. But anyways, the Islander Gift and Gallery and Boutique, which is Anita's store, they have new things coming in every week. And one of the new things that I saw when I came in there, they have these giant new pieces, works of art that are framed and on the wall. And so as you're redecorating your condo, or you're looking for, if I could get a glass of ice water,
or take a break or something.
But they have all
I've got like a clipboard full of real questions.
We're going to get that. I'm not leaving anyway. You always tell me the show is unlimited. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paper straws that Trump's getting rid of.
The Anita's store is open from Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5, and open on Sunday from 10 to 5. Such a cool place for not only apparel, but they also have a great men's department as well. And if you want to check out their stuff, you can go to shoptheislander.com, and you can support them over the internet. By the way, I promised Liani's that I would give her web address as well. That's lianis.com, Leanis. Sorry, Ed, you're going to have to put up with this for a while. Golf is not quite as wavy as they thought. They're going to have legal CBD and for pain relief, fine cigars, and premium glass to unwind. I'm not sure what premium glass is. They're going to have, now Ed, you're going to like this. They're going to have swords, knives, and tasers for the collectors, jewelry, home decor, clothing boutique for the trendsetters. Now, here's the cool, also they're talking about bike rentals. They're talking about henna tattoos. Those are the kind that wash off after about a week. But the thing that really intrigued me is this Juice Jungle Cafe that's opening up. They're going to have fresh salads and acai bowls. They're going to have real fruit smoothies and boba tea, which I did not know what boba tea was, so I had to Google that. Boba tea comes from Taiwan, and it's tea with kind of milk and sugary, like sugar, and then they have like tapioca pearls inside it. Never heard of it before, but apparently it's sweeping America, and everybody likes boba tea. They're going to have fresh donuts, cakes, and bakery treats. But here's the kicker. They're going to make a homemade or handmade, I guess homemade too, sourdough sandwiches from scratch. And yes, they are to die for, they say. So this is Yanni. He's a free spirit. I'm hoping that once Anita gets to know Yanni, she'll can kind of help them along and give them some business advice for how to do business in Fort Myers Beach. But very nice fella. But that's all new. And it won't be called off the hook anymore. So I thought that was interesting. So again, another potential food option. And they're hoping within the next month to be open. And then the other one, what's coming into the new Skies. Everybody misses Skies. We love Skies. But they're not coming back. It's another restaurant. It's called Over Easy Cafe. And they're going to be serving, as I understand it, definitely breakfast, but I've also heard lunch and dinner as well. And that's owned by the same entity that owns New York Pizza and Pasta. So Over Easy Cafe coming in to take the place of the formerly known Skies. And that's probably going to be a little while. They're not as quick as some of the other restaurants, but they're coming. Nesbitt Realty, which everybody knows. And then New York Pizza and Pasta is coming. That's one we've talked about before. We were hoping they would be open in March or April, but it looks like they're going to be pushed to open in June. They will have a full bar, and they'll have some seating outside, which will be great. So they have more capacity. And Brandon and I have been there a number of times in Naples, and they have excellent food. It's not just pizza. They've got a full Italian menu, and the food is spectacular. Again, a great Italian family. They'll be great owners and great folks to have in Fort Myers Beach. Then next to that is going to be Royal Shell Real Estate. And next to that is kind of a sad chapter for us, but we're working on it, is the former Sandbar. Sandbar is not coming back. There's been all kinds of rumors. And here's the audience participation part, Ed. We need somebody who has
wake up, everybody.
Now where's Ed Schoonover? Because Ed Schoonover, he would fit into this category. We need somebody who either themselves or knows of an entrepreneur who's had a lifelong dream of opening a sports bar. And there's been a couple that have taken a look at it, a couple that have gotten close. We need a sports bar in that plaza. Yariv, who owns the Santini Plaza, told me that was one of the most lucrative locations in the whole plaza.
I have an idea.
So the business model is there.
I have an idea.
Please go ahead.
But I would need Ed's financial backing.
Of course, we all would need Ed's.
We'll call it the Yellow Army Lounge Sports Bar. Yellow Army Sports Bar. Of course, nobody would go.
I'm just telling you, whoever opens a sports bar there and has good food, that place is going to be packed.
Ed, you got a couple mil in your pocket? He's not even paying attention.
He's looking. He's checking his wallet.
He's still trying to pay off his pool.
But in all seriousness, because obviously we've got a great group here today, but people who are listening, if they know of somebody, and I mean this quite sincerely because it's a really neat business opportunity, the broker for the property can be reached at 239-402-3848. Just give them a call. They can talk about what the rent is and some of the business issues.
What is the rent? What is the rent going for over there?
It varies on location.
Approximately per square foot.
I don't know.
What's the rent?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Somebody said they should have a gym. I don't think there's ever going to be a gym on this beach again. Only knowing, because I do know that business and I know what it takes. But it's such a seasonal. It's seasonal on the beach. It's going to be hard to be able to pay the rent on Fort Myers Beach and put a gym in when gyms are $10 a month now. They're on every street corner. So, I mean, I just don't see it happening. I think that the gym that was down next to 7-Eleven was a perfect location run by the, perfect
nice
people in it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it seemed like it was doing very well. I just don't see it happening on this beach.
I don't disagree, Ed, and that's sad, but hopefully Bay Oaks will have a really nice facility. We need more of your input to get that gym to where we need it to be for the weight room and so forth. You need to get on the board camp committee, Ed, but we'd have to make a special exception for you. Next to the sandbars, the South Beach Grill. There's no timeline for the South Beach Grill. They're definitely coming back. Obviously, a big favorite at Fort Myers Beach. I did hear a great rumor that the South Beach Grill is planning on having live music, which is desperately needed on the South End when they open. And we're hoping that's soon. And then the last restaurant in the Santini Plaza itself is a place called Badass Coffee. They hope to open sometime in March, so that should be in the next 4 or 5 weeks. The one in Naples has kind of a Hawaiian-based theme, so they really push their Hawaiian coffees. They do have some breakfast and lunch sandwiches, again, some food options, some smoothies, etc. And again, a lot of Hawaiian coffee choices. And then again, hopefully with the next month, there is a Synovus mobile banking ATM already delivered to the Santini Plaza, but that's not operational yet. No post office box or mailbox at the Santini Plaza. We're going to work on that. But in the interim, there is a little drop-off slot. If you look between, I think it's Liani's and Islander, there's a whole bunch of boxes for the business owners. And in there's a little slot that says outgoing mail. So if you're stuck and you really desperately need to mail a letter, you can go to Santini Plaza and just put your letter in that outgoing mailbox. Now, here's some more breaking news, Ed. You ready for this?
I'm ready, bro.
I'm crescendoing here. So the Fishtail restaurant, which everybody knows and loves, that got heavily damaged after the storm, and that's just been sitting idle. It's coming back. I just talked to the owner this week. It's coming back as Pinchers officially. And so the Pinchers will be opening by next season. He already has plans drawn up for the Pinchers. He's waiting for the marina, which owns that property and that whole marina area. They've been slow in doing their rebuilding post-Ian because that marina company owns a bunch of marinas up and down the Gulf. And obviously with Milton and Helena, they incurred a lot of damage in some of the other marinas. So that's slowed the repairs on Fort Myers Beach, which has impacted the Fishtail restaurant. So as soon as they get those fundamental repairs done via the marina, they're going to start on that Pinchers. And he told me they would definitely be open by season next year. But lots of rumors about what was going in there, but it's definitely going to be a Pinchers. I would say, just as an aside to Santini Plaza, the Santini Plaza Art and Craft Show's coming on March 28th through March 30th. And that'll be Friday through Sunday from 10 to 5. And they'll also be there from April 25th to the 27th. The Farmers Market at Santini Plaza is every Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 1. And goes through all the way till April 29th. So that's Santini Plaza, including the Fishtail restaurant in a nutshell.
Thank you all for coming. Have a great Sunday.
Oh, no.
All right.
We got to do a little spiel on beach renourishment as well.
Yeah, well, let me run the show, bro. Okay. Right. Let me just interject here.
Please.
Are you guys ready for some questions about the Fort Myers Beach? Why did you vote yes on Seagate?
Well, you want to get into Seagate. Let's do that. Well, I would say two things. I'm going to have to give a little bit of an answer here, Ed, if I got a second. So I would say a couple things. First of all, I'm sad that we couldn't find a compromise on Seagate. I was not obsessed with 17 stories. I was more than happy to try to find a reasonable compromise. There never seemed to be consensus around a compromise position, which was unfortunate. But I would say a couple things. First of all, I see on social media, people say, how could you approve Seagate with all these traffic issues? I would just explain, and most people know this in your audience, but when they bought that property, it came with 141 units. So whoever bought that property was guaranteed 141 units, no matter what. Now, how you design that's a different issue, but they were going to get 141 units. So Seagate, so the sale of Seagate and the development of Seagate, there's the traffic issue is kind of a non-starter because 141 units is going in. I hear people say, how could you develop that property with all the traffic? Well, it's going to be developed by law, by right. They have 141 units. So the other thing that gets challenging is people say, oh, you kind of let us down on not following the comp plan. And Ed and you and the mayor, to your credit, I think almost 100 times, explained that the comp plan is what you can build by right. But there's also in the comp plan, there's another process through the CPD process or the development agreement process where you can ask for more in return for public benefit. So that's the process that Seagate chose to follow, all within the context of the comp plan. And so that's what happened. So nobody sabotaged the comp plan. People could say that wasn't consistent with what the comp plan was. but certainly procedurally, there's nothing inappropriate about the way it happened. Obviously, all the appropriate hearings were held, and I don't think you disagree with any of that. So what Seagate in essence said early on was, hey, we want to, in return for not building on the beach, because by right, they have the ability to build units 3 stories above flood along the beach. And obviously that's the most lucrative property. So they would have packed their development along the beach 3 stories over flood. So you would have had this Berlin Wall of sorts, taller than the Berlin Wall, along the beach there with no view corridor, no beach access, nothing. Because if they would have built according to the comp plan, they would have had to make no public benefits, no concessions whatsoever. And then obviously the rest of the units would have been sprinkled about that 10 acres. The 10 acres goes from the Gulf to the bay. So very unique piece of property. So they said, hey, how about if we stay off the beach, aside from their clubhouse, and obviously their pool, which is part of their clubhouse, and we push it back to the bay side, and then push it back off Estero so you don't have that canyon effect like you do when you're driving to Bonita Springs. You've got that canyon effect on Hickory. They were trying to avoid that by moving back. Now, at the time, we didn't know that was going to take 17 stories, but conceptually, that seemed like a good idea. The comp plan talks about the importance of view corridors. Ever since I've been on the LPA before I was on council, everybody said how important view corridors were because people want to know they live on an island. It's like when you come out of Publix, you see the ocean. When you come out of the Publix, see the Gulf. When you come out of Publix, it's nice to see. How do you quantify that in terms of value? I don't know, but I think it's important. So that was the concept. So as we get closer to the end of the process, they said we're going to need 2 17-story towers to complete this task. Okay, that seemed like a lot. Obviously, everybody thought it was a lot, and they voiced their concerns. But within the opposition, it was challenging because there were some folks who said stick to the comp plan, 3 over flood on the Gulf side, 2 over flood on the bay side, and have 141 units sprinkled about. Basically, some would say a concrete jungle in that whole 10 acres. Some would say that's great. I don't know. And then some also in that group there was also saying, well, all right, we'll give you a little bit more height. Like the Neptune got 6 stories. We can live with that. And then there was another kind of a subgroup that kind of said nothing higher than Diamond Head, or at least try to knock off a couple stories or something. But there was never a consensus, and it made it challenging to try to solve that problem.
Okay, so let me just interject here. I think there was some feeling from the people, and I've never pretended to know how much opposition there is to what's going on. You hear a lot from people who object to it. You don't hear a lot from people who might not object to it or are in favor of it because they would rather just not say anything, which I get because it's gotten to the point where the island is somewhat divided. But I think there's a certain group of people that feel like you didn't even compromise 2 stories or 3 stories or 4 stories. You didn't push back on Seagate and say 17 is going to piss people off. You just went with the 17. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, it's a fair criticism, but the challenge was I rarely heard the opposition say what you just said. Could we get it down to 15 or 14? Because Seagate would, in a perfect world, would have liked to have some additional density along the bay side. There's one of their surveys said they're entitled to 8 additional units on the bay side. If at some point we would have said, hey, in addition, we'll give you those 8, but take it down a couple stories, that would have been something. But my sense was there was not consensus.
But do you really feel like you needed the people to tell you that? Like you knew the sense of the community, didn't you? Like
I did. I listened to it. I mean, we had 3. We listened to it, but the most vocal aspects of the opposition were not 15 stories. Ed, go back and listen. They were stick to the comp plan, respect the comp plan, which is 3 over flood.
But you have been here a while. You know that people, I've been saying for 7 years, people are afraid of heights on this beach.
But the compromise has to come both sides. It's sort of like telling Seagate, the mayor at the end of the hearing, which was a fair question. He said, would you come back, Matt, with something different? He didn't say what. And Matt's like, okay, what would I come back with? Is 15 okay? Is 7 okay? Is 9 okay? And there was no direction given from the opposition. There was no consensus around the opposition, and that made it challenging. I would gladly supported a compromise. Honestly,
right. I don't think the people that say you haven't followed the comp plan, I don't think they have a lot. I know this is going to piss Greg off and some other people off, but the comp plan allows for a CPD or this new development agreement thing, which I think unfortunately puts the town manager in an awkward position too, which is unfortunate. But you give them a back door to get in, and then they get in the back door. the comp plan says 3 or 4 over flood, or it's certainly not 17. But you do give them this back door, and they came in the back door and they got 17. But I guess my question was like, you had to know deep down 17 was going to freak some people out. Again, I don't know what the number is.
I don't disagree. It was challenging, and what was that compromise number? I'd like to create it. I'd like to learn from this exercise, and obviously the development agreement created some additional challenges because we didn't have it. The renderings weren't as specific as the CPD, and I think too, I'd like to give it the LPA an opportunity. If they said no, what were their suggestions? What would they like to see? I'd like to see the council have a dynamic, a process where we could work with the opposition, where we could try to find a middle ground. You got to remember with the sunshine laws, and I'm not against the sunshine laws, it makes it difficult for you to sit down in a room with your colleagues and kind of hash out a compromise. And I think, the public.
I don't know. I really bugs me when people blame it on the sunshine law.
I'm not blaming it. I'm just saying it makes it more challenging.
I don't know why. Why does it make it more challenging? Why?
Well, let's, for example, we had two of my colleagues voted against it.
Yeah.
You watched all the debates. I watched the debate. I never once heard what was their suggestion. What would have gotten their vote? I never heard it. I'm not being critical of them, but it makes it hard to find a compromise where I don't know where the starting point is from the opposition. And there were a lot of people that said no, and they said it very vocally, but they didn't. There wasn't a lot of effort directed toward building a consensus on an alternative. And I'm not blaming anybody. The process itself is challenging, and I would have been open to a compromise. I'm not some kind of an ideologue or a militant on 17 stories. The process did not work well to building towards a compromise. And again, there are some people that find that height objectionable no matter what it is.
Right, but I think that's a smaller group of people compared to 17. They feel like I think some of them feel like you let them down at 17. Now, if you would have pushed Matt back to 10 or 12, I think you would have. I don't think it would have been as bad because you got to give him something. He's got 141 units. He's got to get something. Well, and then maybe he says, "Hey, I'm gonna have to build one on the beach."
And I do think there's something to be said for pushing all that density off the beach, keeping that open, having a park, having a restaurant, having the walkover, having the restroom.
Let's be honest, it's a private walkover and it's a tiny park.
Well, when you say it's a private walkover, the walkover prevents.
It's not public benefit.
Well, let me counter on you. Let me counter on the walkover. So I figured back of the envelope there'd be about 1,000 people walking back and forth throughout the day from the clubhouse and the beach to the facility. People who are part of Seagate. That's 1,000 people that are stopping traffic on Estero Boulevard for the public. So if they're going over versus stopping the traffic, that's a public benefit.
Right. I guess we can. There's always a gray area at the public benefit.
No, I don't disagree.
The LPA has kind of been saying public benefit will be something that actually benefits the people on Fort Myers Beach in perpetuity. I guess I see your point. It kind of benefits it because it's not stopping the traffic. Let's say the Lani Kai
develops they've got a hotel on both sides of Estero. That's a challenging traffic area. The Lani Kai builds a walkover where pedestrians can go over. It's their customers, but boy, it allows traffic to flow and you don't have people.
Fair enough.
So I'm just saying nothing's perfect.
Yes.
Nothing's easy. It's not an easy process. I don't think you've got a bunch of ideologues on the council that are hard yeses or hard no's.
Right.
And then you got that too. So
I missed that.
So I think you've got a challenge we've got to figure out procedurally the way to bring people together to find a compromise. But here's my hard stop is that, everybody became a political scientist after the election to try to figure out what the elections meant. And my sense was, I think the majority of the island, do I think they all love 17 stories? No, I don't. But does a majority of the island want to move forward and rebuild Fort Myers Beach? Or do they want to kick the can down the road and go back and a year from now have the same argument again a year from now? They want to move forward. And it doesn't mean they all love 17 stories. I agree with the opposition. They all probably don't. I'm not thrilled about it. But we got to move forward. And that was the solution that was viable. That was the one that was on the table. And so going forward, as I've got 3 or 4 major projects left. My hope is early in the process, we can come to consensus. You're never going to get everybody, obviously, as you've seen from your social media. People are all over the place, which is their right. But we've got to figure out a process to bring people together and find a solution.
If the vote came up again tomorrow, would you vote the same way?
I would vote the same way, but I would continue to try to build for some kind of a either concession or consensus. It was hard to get a consensus on that group. You heard all the testimony. There was a wide differing reasoning for opposition to the Seagate proposal. And there was a wide range of people of what they were willing to give and what they were willing not to give. And that made it challenging.
I asked John King this question last week, and I thought he was going to choke me out. Do you feel like you protected that neighborhood?
Well, it's
because you were involved in the Tropical Shores Way shithouse that they were going to build behind Town Hall, and you stopped that.
I did stop it, and I think this is a unique property. It's 10 acres from the Gulf to the Bay. It's the only property like that on Fort Myers Beach. And if anything can absorb a proposal like Seagate, that 10-acre property is the best opportunity to absorb it. Is it ideal? No, but it is a unique property, and the 10 acres in and of itself helps absorb some of the impact of that proposal.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm answering you.
Are you worried about a lawsuit delaying the project?
We went through that exercise with Margaritaville.
Yes.
Everybody has a right for grievance and redress to their government, and they have every right to litigate. The process was very transparent. We had 3 hearings at the council level, 1 at the LPA level. Our attorneys feel very comfortable that the law was followed. But again, if they have a desire to challenge it, they have every right to do so.
Okay. Have you received any death threats over this?
I wouldn't use the term death threat. No, well, let me just answer directly. No, I've not.
Okay.
But I would say that some of the input was less than constructive. Let's say that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about Seagate before we move on? You're going to ask about beach renourishment, aren't you? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've got. Yeah.
And I appreciate your being here, but how do we get from your Bermuda Dunes, Leonardo Arms, to support this island here? We can't get here. 17 stories. We can't get here now, and we're half occupied. Are there any plans for a boat or some means of transportation to get us here? A trolley's not going to work if
Where are you staying, if you don't mind me asking?
Leonardo Arms. I'm your neighbor.
Well, I live right next to Leonardo Arms up until the storm.
Dunes, right.
Yep. And so that was a traffic question. And
by the way, so everybody understands, it is a state statute that you cannot deny a development because of traffic. It has nothing to do with the town. You cannot evaluate a project over traffic, even though that's the biggest issue on the beach right now.
And on that issue, and I'll digress a little bit to Seagate. Seagate, well, one of the things that was unique about their proposal, unlike many other proposals on Fort Myers Beach, they asked for no additional density. They had 141 when they bought the facility. By law, they were entitled to 141. We've had a lot of other properties that have asked for a lot more density. Seagate has asked for no additional density. So they did ask for a lot more height. So it's that trade-off. So, but to answer your question, we're working very hard. We just had, she basically asked about the traffic, but she focused on the water taxi. We have a group of experts formulating our impact fees for Fort Myers Beach. For whatever reason, Fort Myers Beach has not done a good job of formulating and issuing impact fees to new developers. New developers pay this everywhere in Lee County, pretty much almost everywhere in Florida, and they're used to paying it, and we just have not done a good job. So we're putting together a study where we will be able to derive substantial revenue from impact fees, and that will impact all the developments that have already been approved as well. So it'll capture Seagate, it'll capture a number of these other ones that like Neptune and others. So what do you do with that money? One of the things we could do with that money is develop this water ferry concept. There is a private firm that's working on a water ferry now. It was initially part of the Arches proposal, but it's its own entity. And they've done the business model. They think it can work for Fort Myers Beach. They think they can make money. The challenge with it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. They need the island to be back enough for it to be functional, to just invest the capital in the boats and so forth. But they've got a plan. So in other words, for Leonardo Arms, you could hop on the ferry at Fishtail Marina right behind Santini Plaza. You could hop on it over behind the Publix there at Snookbite. We'd love to have a stop at the Mound House. We would have one maybe at Matanzas and the Arches, and then obviously over at the fish restaurant. I'm spacing on right by the bridge there on the other side of the bridge. Marty's,
Doc
Ford's,
guys,
and then over at San Carlos Island, and just have it make a constant run and have a circuit, and maybe every half hour it makes a stop. You could take it, spend your evening and down on the north end during season, have your dinner, shop, cocktails, take the boat back, watch the sunset, be beautiful. And it's very popular in other parts of Florida, and it cash flows. So the town with the impact fees could partner with do a public-private partnership. We could help with the infrastructure at these marinas. We could help with the purchase of the boats. They would run it, so it would be privately held. And I'd love to see some kind of a partnership, but it's close. So to answer your question again, that would be so wonderful during season. Will it solve the traffic problems? No. But will it help give people options to get to the north end so they don't have to drive to Naples and other places for dinner or get stuck in traffic? Yes, sir.
So you and I spoke a little bit by the bathroom about bicycles. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad that's happening.
Hopefully, Hopefully soon. Yeah, there'll be some discussion.
So my wife had a question, and her question was, what is the benefit? We see none for the red coconut. So that's number one.
Yep.
And number two is, I want to have confidence in my town board. I want to be able to buy a property. We're building on the property right now. I want to know that I'm not going to have a 17-story building next to me. I want to know that the comp plan or whatever plan we decide to do is going to be followed, because how am I going to invest here? I'm going to spend $1 million or more building a house, and then I'm going to have a wall of concrete in front of me. I would not be very happy right now with that, as they are on Denora.
Yeah.
So if you built on the beach, is that a big deal? No, you've got a private club with a private walkover with a bathroom that I'm not going to be able to find, I'll bet you, because it's going to be hidden someplace. A park, I'm not going to that park. I want to go to the beach. That's why I came here. So I see no benefit. So could you explain what are the benefits?
Well,
thank you.
That's fair. Fair question. Good question. Thank you. The public benefits that have been argued, and I talked a little bit about it with Ed, is that this concept of, again, if they followed the comp plan literally and didn't use the CPD or the development agreement process, they would have 3-story buildings above flood all along the beach. So you have this wall of buildings right along the Estero, right along the beach. People say, no, I'm okay with that. Some people say, and in the comp plan actually says, we're supposed to look for view corridors and keep that open and look for beach access and parks, etc. So the comp plan actually talks about view corridors, and it's been discussed for a long time. They've become less important since Seagate was proposed, because I think people were concerned about Seagate. But pushing that off the beach and pushing it onto the other part of the 10 acres, and also pushing it back off of Estero Boulevard so you don't have that canyon effect, that was the initial thrust of the broader public benefits. People kind of said, "Oh, Adderholt, you got a bathroom out of the big public benefit is nothing. I shouldn't say nothing, but no development on the beach except for the clubhouse, and obviously pushing it back into those 10 acres. So that's the broader. Then obviously then there's the other pieces, the restaurant, the walkover, the bathrooms, etc. Those are smaller pieces of the public benefit puzzle, but they're not the substantive piece. The substantive piece was developed early on. And that was kind of and to your question, can anybody do this? That was 10 acres from Beta to the ocean. There's not many pieces of property like that. We've probably got 4 or 5 properties left on Fort Myers Beach that are going to have the potential for that kind of development. And that would be the Wyndham, right, the Outrigger, the Times Square, and not that those are all going to be 17 stories, but those are going to be redeveloped, and they're going to need some, and the Arches property. And anything else you're not seeing on Fort Myers Beach, where some developers coming in and buying a bunch of small properties and aggregating them to some massive development. It's just not happening. And if it did happen, I think that threshold would have to be much higher. These are properties that are rebuilding as a result of Hurricane Ian, and I think it's a different category, at least in my mind, respectfully.
Right. Thanks for the answer.
I just want to know,
go ahead,
what are the protections? So when I rebuild my house, and I spend $200,000-$300,000, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
What's my protections?
Yeah, that's
fair.
How
do I know you guys aren't going to allow another Seagate or another whatever to build a wall in front of my house? So why do I want to invest here as a resident?
Yeah. Well,
are we going to become all commercial?
Yeah. There are protections in the comp plan now for residential versus commercial. And obviously, if it's zoned residential, you're going to be in a lot different dynamic. The Red Coconut was not zoned residential. It had its own redevelopment zone designation. And like I said, there's about 4 or 5 properties left in Fort Myers Beach that have the capacity and the zoning capabilities to have some different dynamics to them. So most other properties should not be affected by that. And you're just not seeing in the market that happening anyways, because we're having a hard enough time rebuilding the open properties. Yeah, but legitimate concern, and your point is well taken.
Well, thanks for
Thank
your
you.
concern and thinking about it in the future.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Yeah.
just I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, thank you for being.
And maybe a good
Thank
point,
you.
brought it up. You know, why didn't we do 10 or 8 or 5 versus 17?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Anybody
Yep, I
here have a question? Just, we want to make sure there's audience participation. I don't have all the great questions, but can we move on from Seagate? All right. The Beach Renourishment Project is an ongoing project. I don't know if you've been out to any of the beach renourishment that's been done. It's amazing. If you go out to Times Square, it's crazy great. We went to Leonardo Arms. It almost seems like Leonardo Arms is like the ugly stepchild of the beach renourishment. There's sand being pushed out on one side and on the other side, and then there's their seawall just waiting for sand. And I know it's coming, and I know it'll be done by the end of March, but it's almost like they need to have sand there. So what's the update on that?
They need to have sand there before hurricane season, and they will have it. I was out there on Wednesday. I met with the team. I toured the facility, toured the whole area. And let me just fill in a couple blanks, Ed, because I watched your show on Saturday. It was a good walk around. From Cresciente to Sunkeeper Condo, which is about maybe 10 buildings down from Leonardo Arms, that's all in the critical wildlife area. You're going to see a massive renourishment. When I say massive, we're talking 300,000 cubic yards of sand will be deposited over the next month. You won't recognize Leonardo Arms. And the folks at Bermuda Dunes and Cresciente and Bermuda Dunes, Leonardo Arms, Riviera, and about 10 buildings south from Riviera down to the Sunkeeper, it will be transformed. I know it's been frustrating. You see all those boats offshore on the south end. Those are all boats for Lovers Key and Bonita. The boats that are putting the sand for us are down at Bowditch, about a mile and a half offshore. And they're coming on roughly around Bowditch and then being literally pumped in a pipe all the way down to the south end. Some of the challenge have been some of that, you've got to pump that slurry a long way. And some of those booster pumps have had faulty issues. And we've had some hurricanes that have disrupted it. But the goal is by the end of March 10th to be done with the south end. And I think again, assuming there aren't any mechanical issues, you're going to see a massive, now EBIA, which is for Bay Beach Lane, their beach access point is between Leonardo Arms and Riviera. All those folks, probably 3,000 people in all those condos, they won't even recognize when they get off that beach access what it's going to look like. And I say this, and it's going to be spectacular in a good way. And I've seen the quality of the sand that's being pumped. It's very good, high quality sand. And it's really transformative. So the wall you see at Leonardo Arms, and again, I lived right next to Leonardo Arms. My wife and I, Brenda, lived in Bermuda Dunes. We were there for Hurricane Ian. I don't recommend that. And we just got hammered. And what people don't realize is that after Hurricane Milton, and we knew Milton was serious, but for those people in that area, Milton hit really hard, almost Ian-like. And the damage to Bermuda Dunes and Leonardo Arms after Milton was almost Ian-like. So they've had Herculean efforts to try to get repaired. So, but again, the goal is to complete it by March 10th. They are trucking in sand to the southern portion of that near the Sunkeeper because they're trying to build a little buffer because we're getting close to bird nesting season.
Yeah.
But we've gotten some special grace from the state to continue to do our work during bird nesting season as long as we're careful and we take all these precautions, which we're taking. But we're close, and this thing is going to be massive.
Jim, okay, I have a bunch of questions.
Yes.
Now you condense your answers.
But that was a big one. That was a big one.
We need to get all these answers.
No, but a lot of people ask about that.
All right. Am I losing my mind, or did the state not tell the town of Fort Myers Beach that alternating light would alternate during season? I mean, I know I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but that alternating light is not an alternating light. I watched all the town council meetings like you watch C-SPAN, and I watched them tell you that was going to alternate during season. It doesn't need to alternate when it's not season. but it's a racetrack during season.
You have not lost your mind. I was at the meetings. I saw it. They said it, and they're not.
Why can't they just flip the switch so it alternates so people don't have to race each other over there?
They can and they should. It's state of Florida. It's the counties obviously reached out to the state on your behalf, and we should.
I said to Brian Hammond, I said to David Mullica, I said, what? And the state blamed it on the county, and the county, Brian followed up with it. It's like nobody knows what they're doing over there.
Well, that's not in Fort Myers Beach. It's an unincorporated Lee County.
But it affects you.
No question. And I think it's the alternating light was a great concept. We pushed hard for them to keep it. They originally didn't even have it in their proposal.
Right.
That's one of the few things they listened to us on. So all I can say is I agree with you, and we're hopeful that that'll get changed. Yeah.
So the traffic getting off the island seems like it's been the worst ever. And I know there's a lot of construction trucks and things like that. And poor Margaritaville is getting the blame for what's not their fault. The state is doing a project at the base of the bridge. They're apparently building a roundabout, so that's closed off, and everybody's got to go down Crescent Street. Why isn't there a person at Crescent? Why isn't there a person at Margaritaville? And why isn't there a person at the bridge always moving traffic during the busiest times? It just seems, I mean, I'm a moron. Just ask Kim. She'll tell you that every day of the week that I'm a moron. But if you put 3 people there just constantly moving traffic, it seems like it would help instead of getting all the way backed up. Why isn't that taking place?
Yeah.
Thank you. No. Wait, are you guys clapping because I said I was a moron? Yes, they are. I mean, it doesn't make it like if I'm leaving the bridge, right? If you get past Margaritaville and you're leaving the bridge, what's your natural reaction? So stop, because you think somebody's coming because you're trained to look for traffic coming off the bridge. If there's a guy standing there or a lady standing there, just making sure, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. It doesn't make any sense to me why fucking government can't figure that out. It's 3 people standing, directing traffic. That's their biggest concern. I'm not yelling at you.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with anything
I'm just losing my mind.
So at the last town meeting, the mayor, I think, rightfully raised that issue, and they were talking about staffing issues. The sheriff's department has staffing issues for their reserve officers. So the mayor said, let's hire a private firm and pay these people hourly, and the firm has been contracted, and we should have, if those people are not, they should already be out there. And if they're not, they'll be out there soon.
Has anybody seen them out there yet? All 3 in those 3 spots?
I don't know about all 3, but I know.
But does it make sense to have them in all 3?
I certainly make two of them.
Because your number 1 spot would be right by that walkover. Make those pedestrians wait 30 minutes.
How about just use the walkover? Yeah.
Are you guys applauding because I said I was a moron? Is it you could let it go, will you? No, I mean seriously, you can walk over faster than if you had to wait. Make the pedestrians wait.
Yeah. I ever since the pedestrian walkover was put in there, I've begged people to take the walkover.
Yes,
You've done a nice job of allowing me to educate people, but we do need to get those people out there. The town is hiring them at the town's expense. You know, the state should reimburse us, whether they do or not doesn't even matter at this point, because you said.
See, my wife is yelling at me to leave you alone.
No, it's a good rant, and it's a legitimate rant. I think everybody in this island has probably said that rant at least once in the last few weeks because it's bad. And there's no easy answer for it, but having those folks out there, I agree, helps 100%. And we're fully supportive of getting the manpower out there to do it. You're not going to get an argument from it. Yep.
So what do you think about how we should move forward with this show? Like, I'm totally confused about, like, Dan quit the show for the most part. And Karen suggested at first that we alternate everybody. I don't know that you guys want to come on often. I don't know. I don't know what to do, honestly. We got Scott on next week and then Dan back after that. And then after that, I really don't know what to do.
I think it should be, first of all, the will of your listeners. The only suggestion I would make is if you do a rotation, I think you really ought to include the town manager into that rotation. I'd like to see the town manager on this show on occasion. I think we have a town charter which really empowers the town manager with a lot of authority. And I think, quite frankly, for these last 3 months we have Andy, he's going to be very candid, which is good. And he's very diplomatic most of the time. I think he'll be less diplomatic, which I think is really good. He'll be a very good guest.
If I invited the town manager on, would he come on?
I'd be shocked if he wouldn't.
Okay.
But in terms of the rotation, that's up to you and your listeners. I'm whatever you guys decide, I'm fine.
It's been 50-50 on what to do. So let's talk about the town manager. Do you think, like I said this to Karen, I said this to John, and I want to say it to you. I kind of got the feel that before the discussion was going to come up about whether Andy was going to extend his contract, everybody felt like we're going to have him for at least one more year. He's transformed the staff. The people love working for him. They love working for the town. The communication has been great. Nicole's been great. The PIO has been great. And then the meeting comes up, and it almost seemed like everybody was in shock. Like we knew he wasn't going to be here forever, maybe not 2 years. But I think everybody was under the impression that he was going to stay for 1 year. And it seemed like it was a total shock.
It was a total shock. Andy's become a very good friend, and I've been a big supporter of Andy's from the very beginning, and he's a catch. I mean, you look back, and when we were going through that interview process, when Andy came along, I actually did a lot of research on Andy, and of course he came from Surfside, so he had that amazing experience at Surfside. But when Andy came here, he resigned from Surfside because a new mayor was elected, a little bit volatile character. There was a lot of challenges with the council in terms of interpersonal challenges. And the mayor, as I understand it, was telling Andy to do things that Andy didn't feel like he had the authority to do. So Andy felt like he was going to be fired because he was being asked to do things he thought were inappropriate. So he resigned. So when he came along, there were no issues with his performance at Surfside. He was an excellent town manager. The people loved him there. Mm-hmm. And he was a great catch for Fort Myers Beach. I mean, a tremendous catch. And I mean, he's 67 years old. 66 years old. He's got all this wonderful experience. He's done a lot of these beach towns, and he has the demeanor. He's a servant leader. He's got a servant's heart. So yes, we were shocked. So as we go through this process, by the way, he also has built a tremendous team.
Yes. Before you go on,
yep.
I just want to give somebody a little bit of history because you brought it up.
Yep.
When you guys were interviewing those final four, there was five, and then the fifth one took a job. There was a final four that you had. Andy was the clear favorite. There was the other three didn't compare to Andy. But I remember calling the former mayor of Surfside, and I said, hey, can you tell me, because I was doing some background on him, can you tell me about this guy? And the mayor said, yeah, I'm going to run again. And when I win again, I'm going to hire Andy back.
He ran again, and he won.
Yeah.
And he tried to hire Andy back. Thank heavens Andy stayed with us. He was a tremendous catch for Fort Myers Beach. And one of the things that I would also say, and I don't mean to be unkind, but when Andy was in that finalist group, if Andy would not have been selected, I would have encouraged us to go back and start over again because the talent level after Andy dropped dramatically.
For sure.
And so he was a great catch for Fort Myers Beach. So that being said, I think, did an open records request. And I think all of the resumes have been posted on the website.
As of Thursday, there were 31 applications and maybe more now.
I went through them all.
By the way, some of them are somebody was a mechanic who applied for town manager.
We also had some really good people, very solid people. And again, Andy and his team, we've got a great HR department. They're going to weed through those candidates and probably get down to 5 or 7. And I think the process worked pretty well last time. We had a nice reception for the public to meet all the finalists. And then we had an opportunity to interview them one-on-one. We can't interview them as a group. And then we interviewed them as a group publicly and asked questions again publicly. And then we had a vote, and it worked out well for Andy. But what I think people need to understand is this is a very competitive market for good talent. There's a lot of folks out there that are just, kind of looking for a job. God bless them. But if you really want the creme de la creme, when you go through this interview process, they are interviewing us as much as we're interviewing them.
Because you're at the mercy of a constantly changing political atmosphere. And, oh boy, the more babies in this place, the better. Roger, I don't want to bring up the past, but Roger was always counting votes. He knew when he had 3 votes, and that's the way he would push things. Andy has always seemed to have 5 votes.
Andy has I can tell you definitively, and we're all different. We all get along pretty well, which is important because when I would argue that these town manager candidates, if they're really interested, they're likely watching this show right now because they're doing their homework. And when we go through this interview process, they're going to watch to see how the council gets along. They're going to see how Andy was treated. And fortunately, Andy is not leaving because he had any issues with the council. He has 100% support of the council, which I think bodes well for us recruiting. it's like it was nice that our previous town manager resigned, so we didn't have to take any more dramatic action. I knew we needed a new town attorney, but I was hopeful we could find somebody.
Oh my God, the town attorney now,
No.
it's like night and day what you have now.
But the point I'm trying to make is that instead of the drama of firing our attorney, it was much better to find an attorney and just let his contract run out and bring in the new people because
she's amazing.
Because they look, these town manager candidates are looking. They don't want drama.
Yeah.
They want a professional work environment. They want a professional counsel to work with.
So let me ask you this.
So we're trying to minimize drama, Ed.
Yes.
And I want you to hear that. Minimize drama.
You're bringing up the same thing John King brought up last week. I am just reporting on what I see.
I know.
You're insinuating that I'm creating drama.
Well, you stir drama. You don't create it. These are good questions.
Do I just stir what's happening on the beach, or are you saying that I somehow create?
I don't think you create it. You ask good questions. Everything you ask me is fine.
Right.
I've never said, don't ask me this, Ed. You've never given me a list of
Give me an
questions.
example of stirring the drama. Give me an example. Okay, fair enough. Crickets.
Well, there's just so many to choose from.
Go ahead and pick one.
Yeah.
Just pick one.
No,
I think the one thing, there's one, I'll pick one for you. There's one thing I regret posting. I probably shouldn't have posted how would you have voted for town council after the Seagate vote? I think that bugged you.
No, that didn't bug me. Nothing like that bugs me because it's democracy. I mean, I think I love. I got to remember, I've been a fan of what you're trying to accomplish here from the very beginning. I've always been supportive, participate, try to get you good information.
But I'm not your PIO either.
Well, we've always had challenges in that area. You know that.
I know.
That was one of the reasons why you came to glory is because you filled a vacuum.
You realize I get defensive when you and John say I stir the pot because nobody has been able to create a specific example of that. So I don't know why you say it. If you can't come up with a specific example, then
we got a lot of, I don't mind answering Seagate questions, but we spent probably a third of the time talking about Seagate. I mean, I don't know how many times we're going to rehash that. I'm happy to continue to answer questions.
No, I don't want to ask any more about it, but you do know that there's, again, I don't know the percentage of people that are pissed off about that because they see you approving then Moss, and then...
No, and it's okay to talk about Moss and all these other ones, but we've talked about Seagate so many times now. All it does is just continue to gin up those emotions. And again, it's fine. It's First Amendment. I can handle it, but I just don't know how constructive it is to continue to rehash the same thing over and over and over again. But again, I'll answer questions on Seagate all day long. I don't, you ask me, I never once have said, don't ask me a question.
No, you never told me, don't call me or nothing like that.
You don't ever give me a list of questions. I do, it's all freestyle with us.
Yes, for sure.
And I love it. But I just, in terms of what we're trying to do is create a dynamic where we're attracting top talent to Fort Myers Beach. And I think it's important for us all to work under the terms that we're being interviewed as much as we're interviewing the candidate.
So I want to let the Seagate thing go, but the thing that is that the vibe that I get from you and from John is stop asking me about it because I just want it to go away. And those people out there are not letting it go, and they live on your beach. I don't live on your beach.
That's not what I'm saying, Ed, and you know that's not what I'm saying. I'll answer these questions all day long, but you asked me for an example, and I gave you one. It's just taking an issue and over and over and over again when we're moving on to other issues. But
all right,
in fairness to you, Ed, there are people that still care about it. So to your defense, there's people that care about it. So what's the line? I don't know.
I don't either. The other thing the town manager thing. Do you think that Andy really, that email that Fred sent to Andy's wife, was that really the thing that sent him over the edge? Or do you think he would have stayed before that? If Fred didn't send that, would he have stayed?
That's a great question. I think it was certainly there were some cumulative things happening. There were some other folks that were really ratcheting up some, I would say, unproductive criticism in a very aggressive way. And then this other gentleman came along and reached out to his wife who works in North Florida. He's away from his wife all week long and goes to her place of work. And I mean, at some point, when you're 66 years old and you're financially secure, you work because you want to work. You don't work because you have to work. And I think Andy's at a life stage where, I think I know he loves our island and he loves the council. He loves the people on Fort Myers Beach. But all that ancillary stuff, that ancillary negativity.
Did that email, he looked at that email and said, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't
I
need
just
it.
think that was sort of the icing on the
Okay,
cake. Yeah,
fair enough,
in my
yeah.
opinion, yeah.
What are you guys doing to La Ola? Why do you hate La Ola?
Well, let me say this. Let me go broader than that. We've had both the President of the United States, we've had the new Secretary for Homeland Security, and the Governor of the state of Florida say we need to relook at the model of FEMA. Some have said get rid of it. Some have said block grant that money to the state of Florida, who's very good at disaster response. Having been to the FEMA tent after Hurricane Ian 8 separate times to try to get something accomplished, I hope that effort is successful.
And I know it's not the town. I'm just joking with you. It's totally, let's talk local though. Can somebody on ground level be in that spot? In your opinion?
And I'm not trying to
During
dodge
storm season.
I'm trying to dodge the question. I'm not trying to dodge the question, but it's right now it's being litigated. And quite frankly, it would be so great to get some direct answers from FEMA. You know, in fairness to Tom and everybody involved here and the town, I watch the poor mayor who's sometimes allowed into the FEMA meetings. Sometimes they kick the elected officials out. And then here's Andy and Frankie. They're going to Atlanta. They talk to FEMA officials. They get one answer. Then they go out to DC. They get a different answer. They get written answers that are so vague and gray and ever evolving. You've seen this stuff with our county appraiser. You've seen this stuff with the trailers, the tents after the storm, the promises to pick up debris. It's been such a cluster with FEMA, and the argument for maintaining FEMA is, their institutional knowledge and their subject matter expertise. Where is it? I don't know. Again, if Fort Myers Beach has done something wrong, tell us. We'll fix it, and let's get back into the flood insurance program and let's move on.
Yeah. If I was Kevin Guthrie, I would not take that job. Everybody in the state of Florida loves him. It would seem like there'd be a better job for him to go to than to run FEMA.
Well, some people look at that as an opportunity. Imagine being someone with Kevin Guthrie's background and his expertise to come in there and completely refurbish and restore FEMA and make it work. That's a tremendous professional accomplishment. It appears as if they're leaning towards the model of block granting the monies to the individual states, and you block that money. Governor DeSantis said the other day, you give me, instead of $1 from FEMA, you give me 75 cents. I'll do more with that 75 cents than they'll do with that $1. Easy.
Yeah. What is your 5K time right now?
I don't really time myself until your races, and obviously I was.
Your last performance was totally under par.
Yeah, well,
I'm used to giving you medals and stuff.
Well, that's because the competition gets stiffer. I'm getting older. I'm 62 years old, and it's.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions for the vice mayor? Anybody? Oh, come on, man! Jeez.
Happening with the Wyndham.
The Wyndham. Well, Ed just did his walk around there on Saturday. I talked to Frankie and Andy about it because there's some neighbors right across the street who are very upset about the progress of the demolition, and rightfully so. They have a 6-month permit to tear that down, and they're within that 6-month permit. The town is going to go out there to check for health and safety issues, but they've got, as long as they work. I think Ed, you learned that it was 2 months that the owner tell you that 2 more months.
I did get a text yesterday, and they said, let's see. The next few days, the dumpsters and the trash should be gone in the next few days. Contractor is continuing to excavate the pool area as well behind the asbestos abatement is scheduled. It was anyway. It just seems like it's going along a little slower.
The bigger question with the Wyndham is I've heard through the grapevine that they've put out a pretty significant sort of offer sheet again to try to sell the property. There's been a number of entities that have bid on it. We're trying to see what happens to shake that out. I think we as a town, back to the Seagate point, we need to begin to think about what will allow there at the Wyndham if we're going to get a restaurant, tiki bar, hotel. Everyone I talk to who has ever expressed an interest in the last 2.5 years in that property says we're going to need more density, we're going to need more height to make the economics work. Otherwise, we're going to see high-priced condos like Gulf 12 Go right in there with no public benefit, no access. We're going to lose. Now, Brenda and I'm such a loser. For Valentine's Day, we went to the attorney, did work on we had all of our estate documents done and signed. And then, that's what a romantic thing to do on Valentine's Day. But afterwards, we went across the street over to the Pinchers. First time I've been to a Pinchers since Hurricane Ian. And it's right on the Caloosahatchee River. And to have that Pinchers on the water, it reminded me so much of the Wyndham and the Pinchers and the Outrigger, quite honestly. To have that option to be on the water, it's one of the reasons we live on a barrier island. We've got to be thinking about how to make, and I'm not saying the Outrigger proposal is perfect, but we've got to figure out as an island a way to make the economics of that work so we can have a place we need a hotel on the south end. We need a restaurant. We need a tiki bar. We want to watch the sunsets on the water. We want to hear the waves hitting the shore. I love Santini Plaza, but when friends and family come from up north, they want to be on the water. You can't get north. Hopefully we'll have a water ferry soon where we could do that. But we desperately need the Wyndham and the Outrigger to be successful. So I hope people just kind of think about options, keep an open mind, because we need to get that done.
All right. Did we miss anything? I always like to make sure that before we go, it's 11:30, and I want to make sure that everyone can go see the cars before the cars leave. Do we miss any topics?
I think we've hit.
I know you got a meeting on Tuesday. It's going to be quite quick.
Pretty uneventful, I think. Yeah.
There was the one thing I can't ask you about is the food truck park, right? I can't ask you about that.
That's coming up. I will say I watched the entire LPA hearing, and they did a great job of vetting the issue. I've got some additional concerns and questions that I'm looking forward to asking. But
what concern can you share?
Well, I visited the folks who live there, the homes and the condos, and I talked to them. I've talked to the applicant, the folks who are proposing it, and I'll ask those questions.
Okay.
At the next meeting.
I can't ask them something that's coming up for a vote, so I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So
that's
anything else, Jim?
I think we've covered everything.
Go ahead.
Be encouraged. I think Fort Myers Beach, and that it's been a tough season, although we've had a lot of people here. And but next season we'll have the renourishment done. We'll have the street lights all brand new. We're going to have a number of new places open, and a lot of the homes will be rebuilt by then. Most of the condos will be open. And I know it's really hard for people right now, and it's been hard for us. But hang in there, but help is on the way, and the future's bright for Fort Myers Beach.
I went down to delivered like 5 Gulf of America shirts yesterday, and I went down Madera, and I went down a couple of streets and the residential buildings.
It's amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, every side street is being built. The commercial takes a little longer, but like you said, next season, Best Western will be open. The Beach Bar will be open. The Whale will be open. Sandy Bottoms probably be open. Who knows? Station 31 might be open.
Santini Plaza will be completely open.
Santini Plaza.
Fishtail Restaurant. You'll have all the condos will be open on the south end, except for the ones that would need to rebuild. And those are the minority. So it's the future is very bright for Fort Myers Beach. It's just tough. It's been a tough 3.5 years.
Yeah. Big hand for the Vice Mayor of Fort Myers Beach, everybody. Thank you for coming on, Jim. Thank you very much. All right, everybody, before we go, I need to tell you about our sponsors. Please don't hang up the phone. Island Pancake House is over in the Seagate Plaza. We don't love who runs the Seagate Plaza, but we love the Island Pancake House in the Seagate Plaza. They're open 7 days a week, 7:30 to 2 o'clock, and they're willing to stay open longer because they have a full bar. And we know people on Fort Myers Beach love to drink. The restaurant has a full liquor license, not a half, not a quarter, not a third, a full liquor license. They're locally owned and operated, and they love serving Fort Myers Beach. Go in and say to Brian and Stacy, you heard the ad here on Beach Talk Radio. The Island Pancake House. Also, Eagle Eye Aluminum. Tom's not here today. He's probably in Africa snorkeling, specializing in seamless gutters as well as both aluminum and vinyl soffit fascia repairs or full replacement. If you got a hole in your pool cage, you want to call somebody you can trust, not somebody driving down the street with palm trees hanging out of the back of their pickup truck like my wife did when they stop and say, hey, we can repair your pool cage. And then they broke it. Give Tom Coleman a call because he will not break your pool cage. 239-340-1639. 239-340-1639. That's Eagle Eye Aluminum, baby. Eagle Eye Aluminum. Or you can go by the Hotka House, that big giant castle across the street from the Beach Baptist, because he did some work over there. Yeah. Tom Coleman, Eagle Eye Aluminum. 239-340-1639. And finally, today, our friend Alex King. Alex King not only donates all his money to the community from the King Foundation, he sponsors our show, which is very nice of him. He doesn't need to do that, but we love having Alex King as a sponsor because he creates dreams, everybody. I create nightmares, and Alex King creates dreams because I'm a pot stirrer, according to John King and Jim Atterholt. Wheat, 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 wheat. Alex King doesn't stir the pot. He creates dreams. He elevates your lifestyle. Give Alex King a call if you want to sell your property or buy something really cool on Fort Myers Beach. 239-219-0336. 239-219-0336. Thank you to Alex King. He also sponsored our walk around yesterday, which was at the Wyndham. Thank you all for coming to Wahoo Willie's. Big week ahead of us. Ohio Day at Parrot Key on Wednesday. Thursday, who cares? Wisconsin Day, a week from Wednesday. Who cares? And what's that? There is no Michigan Day. We need to create a Michigan Day. And we will be broadcasting the fire department report on the merger on Thursday, I think. I don't know when it is. My wife's back. Oh, I forgot to tell the story about the dog, so I'll have to save that for next week. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great Sunday. What are we going to do without football?